Let me ask you something. Have you ever been in an argument with someone, your heart racing, your voice shaking, words pouring out because you needed them to understand? And then you looked at their face, and they were smiling. Not a warm smile, not an "I'm sorry, go on" smile, just a small, quiet, unnerving smile. And in that moment, something shifted. You didn't just feel angry anymore. You felt confused, you felt small. You started wondering, am I overreacting? Do I look crazy right now? Why isn't he fighting back? There is something about a smile in the middle of conflict that stops us cold. Because a smile is supposed to mean warmth. It is supposed to mean connection. It is the face we make when we see someone we love, when we hear good news, when we feel safe. So when someone smiles at your anger, your brain doesn't know what to do with it. And that confusion, that is exactly the point. A smile is supposed to be a bridge, but sometimes it is a wall. Now, let's be fair. Not every angry smile is a weapon. Some people smile when they're angry because they're terrified. They've learned since childhood that conflict is dangerous, that showing anger will only make things worse. So they smile to survive. They smile to soothe. They smile because they're desperately trying to bring the temperature down. That is real. That is human. But there is another kind of smile, a different kind, one that doesn't come from fear but from control, one that doesn't want to end the fight, it wants to win it. You came with fire. They met you with ice, dressed as warmth. Let's start with the smile you probably know best, the one you might have worn yourself. Think back to a moment when you were angry, really angry, but you couldn't show it. Maybe you were at work, and losing your temper would have cost you something. Maybe you were with someone who intimidated you, and showing anger felt dangerous, so you smiled. You forced the corners of your mouth up, even while your chest burned. You did it to survive the moment. Psychologists call this an appeasement behavior. It is not a fancy term. It just means we do something to calm down the person in front of us to signal, I'm not a threat. Please don't hurt me. You see it in the animal world all the time. A dog lying on its back, showing its belly. A primate looking away, showing submission. A smile can do the same thing. It says, I surrender. Let's not fight. Sometimes a smile is a peace offering. You're not hiding your anger. You're just trying to survive it. And for many people, that is exactly what is happening. They're not being fake. They're not being manipulative. They're just trying to make it through a moment that feels unsafe. If you've ever done this, there is nothing wrong with you. You were protecting yourself. That is what humans do. But here is where it gets complicated, because appeasement isn't the only reason people smile when they're angry. Some people smile for the exact opposite reason. Not to surrender, not to calm the other person down, but to win. You can smile to calm the storm, or you can smile to become the storm. So what does it look like when a smile stops being a shield and starts being a sword? Imagine this. You're in an argument with someone. You're upset. You're raising your voice because you feel unheard. And instead of reacting, instead of getting upset back, they just smile. They lean back. They cross their arms, and they watch you. In that moment, something shifts. You're not just angry anymore. You're performing. You're wondering how you look. You're wondering if you're losing control, and they know it. They planned for it. That smile wasn't an accident. It was a strategy. If you scream at me and I smile, I win, because now you're not just angry. You're alone in your anger. Psychologists have a name for this kind of behavior. It is linked to something called Machiavellianism. Now, don't let the big word scare you. It doesn't mean someone is a villain or a mastermind. It just describes a personality style where someone is emotionally strategic. They keep their cards close to their chest. They don't react. They calculate. And in a conflict, that gives them all the power. Because here is the truth about human emotion. When one person is flooded with feeling and the other person shows nothing, the flooded person starts to feel unstable. They start to question themselves. Why isn't he upset? Am I the problem? Am I being dramatic? And that self-doubt, that is the goal. The smile becomes what I call a Machiavellian smokescreen. It hides everything: intention, emotion, weakness. And it leaves the other person fighting alone. A smile like that doesn't say, "I hear you." It says, "You don't scare me." It is a power move, pure and simple. The person smiling isn't interested in resolution. They're interested in dominance. They want you to know that your anger can't touch them, that your feelings are yours to carry alone. And in that moment, the argument stops being about the issue. It becomes about who is in control. You might have experienced this without knowing what it was. You might have walked away from a conversation feeling confused, ashamed, or somehow guilty, even though you were the one who was hurt. That confusion isn't weakness. It is evidence that someone shifted the game without telling you the rules. They turned your emotion into your enemy, and you didn't even see it happen. But here is what we don't talk about enough. What does that smile cost the person wearing it? Because here is the thing about weaponizing your calm. It works. In the moment, it works beautifully. You feel powerful. You feel untouchable. You watch the other person unravel while you sit there, perfectly still, perfectly smiling, perfectly in control. And for a second, it feels like winning. But winning isn't the same as connecting, and control isn't the same as peace. When you weaponize your peace, you lose your peace. Think about what it takes to maintain that smile. You have to disconnect. You have to numb yourself to what is happening in front of you. You have to treat the other person's pain, their frustration, their desperate need to be heard, as noise, as something to rise above, and maybe you succeed. Maybe they walk away feeling small, but you walk away feeling nothing. That is the trade-off. That is the hidden cost. Psychologists have a word for this. They call it emotional detachment. It is not just staying calm in a storm. It is cutting yourself off from the storm entirely. And at first, it feels like strength. But over time, detachment doesn't discriminate. It doesn't just block out the anger you don't want to feel. It blocks out everything else too. A smile that hides your anger also hides your heart. You might notice this playing out in your own life. Maybe you're someone who stays calm in conflicts. Too calm. Friends tell you they never know what you're really feeling. Partners say you're hard to read. And maybe you've even felt proud of that. Like you're the stable one, the one who doesn't crack. But if you sit quietly with yourself long enough, you might notice something else. A distance between you and everyone else. A sense that even when you're in a room full of people, you're watching from behind glass. You're not in the moment. You're managing it. That is what emotional detachment does. It protects you, yes, but it also isolates you, because intimacy doesn't survive in the space between a real reaction and a calculated smile. You can't let someone in if you're always performing your piece. The truth is, real connection requires risk. It requires showing the other person that they matter enough to affect you, that their words land, that their anger or their love can actually reach you. When you smile away every conflict, you're not just winning arguments, you're losing the chance to be known. And maybe that is the deepest cost of all. The people who learn to smile through their anger often end up alone in a room full of people who think they're fine. So where does that leave us? A smile is one of the most human things we do. It is the first language we learn. Babies smile before they speak. And for most of our lives, a smile means something good. It means welcome. It means warmth. It means I see you, and I'm glad you're here. But somewhere along the way, some of us learn to use it differently. We learn that a smile can hide. A smile can control. A smile can win. And in a world that rewards composure, that is a tempting tool. You don't have to smile to be strong. You just have to be real. If you've ever been the one smiling through your anger, whether to survive or to win, I want you to hear this. There is nothing wrong with you. You learned to protect yourself the best way you knew how. Maybe conflict scared you. Maybe vulnerability hurt you. Maybe someone taught you that showing feeling is losing, and so you smiled. You survived. But survival isn't the same as thriving, and protection isn't the same as peace. The goal isn't to never show your anger. The goal is to never lose yourself in it. Real strength isn't about being untouchable. It is about being brave enough to let the right people in. It is about trusting that your anger, your frustration, your messy humanness can be held by someone who loves you, and that their anger can be held by you. You don't have to perform your peace. You don't have to win every conflict with a smile. You're allowed to feel. You're allowed to show it. You're allowed to be affected by the people who matter, because in the end, the people who truly love you don't need your performance. They don't need you to be calm and untouchable and always in control. They just need you real, present, human. The people who truly love you don't need your performance. They just need your presence. So the next time you feel that smile creeping in, the one that hides instead of connects, ask yourself, am I protecting myself, or am I pushing someone away? And if the answer is both, that is okay. Awareness is where change begins. You can keep the smile that keeps you safe, and you can also learn, slowly, to let it down. Just a little. Just with the right people. Just enough to let them see you. Because a smile was never meant to be a wall. It was meant to be a door.